Hello and welcome to Complexity Limit's Guide to the Mythic Sludgefist encounter, written and produced by Crzypck in coordination with Complexity Limit, presented by Herman Miller. Just a quick note before we begin, this guide assumes you know the fight already on Heroic. As such, we will not be discussing or explaining the Heroic mechanics, we will assume you know them, and will exclusively be focused on the Mythic changes and strategy. If you need a refresher on the basic mechanics, please check out our Heroic guide on the channel. Welcome to Sludgefist, the first real wall of the Mythic raid. This fight is tightly tuned, both for DPS and HPS. Mechanically, it's not horribly difficult, it's just a numbers check. Most of your progress will be maximizing DPS uptime and throughput, and avoiding individual personal mistakes. It'll take a while for everyone in your guild to learn the encounter and the proper movement around the room. It's actually pretty likely your first kill will require near perfect execution with no deaths or one death that was very quickly battle rezzed. For your comp, we recommend going with 2 tanks, 5 healers, and 13 DPS. There are 3 main mechanical changes to Sludgefist on Mythic. First and foremost, every player in the raid, including tanks, will get chain linked every single time the debuff is applied, no exceptions. This is a coordination check. Every player needs to watch their positioning and that of their linked friend. To help more easily handle this, you should download a weak aura that assigns a leader and a follower. You'll then obey this assignment. Whoever's assigned the leader for a pair will move first. The follower just, follows their assigned leader. Setting up like this helps prevent scenarios where people just move in opposite directions from each other and kill each other. The leader of the pair is responsible for moving properly and keeping the pair alive. A couple important notes on the links. First off, tanks will always be linked together, melee will be linked with melee, and ranged will be linked with ranged. The only exception to this is if those rules are not possible, like if you have 3 melee alive. Next, chain slam is obviously still a thing. Since everyone has chain link, that means you'll need to ensure the chain slam target's partner gets in the circle, which can get quite dicey. Fortunately, we found a pretty simple way to handle this. You can actually bait which players get chosen for the chain slam. It'll always target one of the 4 furthest away members of your raid. As such, simply assign what 4 players you want to soak for each chain slam. When it's that group's turn, they'll move a bit further away from the boss than the entire rest of the raid. One of those 4 players will be targeted by chain slam, and all 4 should make sure that they're in the red circle and get gripped in. You'll want to use defensive cooldowns for this, as it does quite a deal of damage. Spirit Link and Barrier are great for this, as are individual personal cooldowns like Turtle. The second change is a new ability called Seismic Shift. The boss casts this periodically throughout the fight. It'll put a 4-yard circle around every player in the raid. After 4 seconds, all of those circles explode, dealing 16k damage to any one hit. Since this is roughly half your health pool, you'll need the entire raid to spread out slightly more than 4 yards. This gets progressively more difficult later on in the encounter, as there's more puddles of the falling rubble on the floor and less room left for you to stand. Pair that with every player in the raid having chain link and prevented from getting too far away from their partner, and this will get messy very quickly as the fight goes on. As a small note here, the tanks can actually stack on top of each other for this. It doesn't deal enough damage to kill any tanks, and this will help preserve a small amount of extra space for the melee or the range to have a little more room to spread out. The last mechanical change is called Fractured Boulder. When Sludgefist hits the pillar from Hateful Gaze, 4 soak circles appear, 1 on each face of the pillar. After these 4 puddles are all soaked, they will then split into 2 smaller puddles. If any of the big or the small puddles fail to be soaked, the raid instantly wipes. We found the best way to handle this was pre-assigned groups for each side of the pillars. Put markers down around the first pillar and use that as your guide. Each marker represents a pre-assigned group, and each group will soak that specific side for all 4 of the pillars. Tanks will take the star side, melee will take the circle side, half the range helps on the triangle side, the other half the range deals with the diamond side. Even though you only have these markers available for the first pillar, those assignments should stay the same for all 4 of the pillars. Again, to reiterate, do not miss a soak. A single soak will instantly wipe the raid. So strategy wise, you'll follow pretty similar positioning to Heroic. Start with the boss at the front right of the room, with a ranged front left. You'll break the front left pillar first, the front right pillar second, the rear right pillar third, and the rear left pillar fourth. Move around the room as necessary for the puddles of falling rubble. The ranged should ensure they're standing far enough away to create gaps during the destructive stomp, as there will always be a seismic shift during that stomp. You need to make sure there's somewhere for the melee to stand when they run out. Watch the timer for the chain slam, and your raid leader should be calling out the pre-planned groups and when they need to go and bait. Each time the boss casts Hateful Gaze and hits a pillar, pop a raid defensive cooldown to keep everybody stable. As we mentioned at the start of the video, this is primarily a numbers check. You'll want to pre-plan your DPS cooldowns for specific points in the fight. 2-minute cooldowns should be used on the pull, on pillar number 2, and on pillar number 4. 3-minute cooldowns should be used on pillars number 1 and number 4. And you'll want a Bloodlust immediately following the final destructive stomp, which is cast before Hateful Gaze number 4. This will be at about 3 minutes and 55 seconds into the fight. This will let you have Bloodlust up for the final pillar. Your goal is to kill Sludgefist before he hits the wall. A final note, after the third pillar is destroyed, there is a lot of damage going out to the raid. You basically can't take any extra damage from any source, or you'll probably die. Watch your feet, be careful, use defensives as necessary, keep yourself alive, and keep pumping damage into the boss. This will take a few pulls, but after a while, he'll fall over and you get to collect your purples. Thanks for checking out our video. Now that you know how to kill the boss, be sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel for the rest of our guides, kill videos, and a whole lot more.